The Fairmont Grand was glowing that night. Golden lights spilled through the glass doors like liquid pride. I arrived early, dressed in a black cocktail dress from last season. It wasn't designer, but it fit perfectly, like quiet confidence. I clutched the small cream envelope in my hand. Inside was something more valuable than money, though no one knew it yet. At the check-in table, a woman smiled politely. "Name, please," she asked, fingers tapping the iPad. "Lana Moore," I said, "the bride's sister." She typed, waited, frowned slightly. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "You're not on the list." The room seemed to pause, but my heartbeat didn't. "There must be a mistake," I said. "I RSVP'd directly to Sophie." She checked again. Same polite confusion, same final answer. "I'll call the event coordinator," she offered. But I already knew there was no mistake. Sophie didn't make mistakes, only statements. I stepped aside, pretending to text, pretending not to notice the stares. My phone buzzed. "Mom, are you here yet? She's walking soon." I didn't reply. Instead, I called Sophie. She answered on the third ring, laughter and violin music in the background. "Lana, what's wrong?" she asked, pretending to care. "They say I'm not on the list," I said quietly. There was silence, not confusion, calculation. "Oh," she finally said, her voice cool and deliberate. "I just thought it might be better this way." "Better?" I asked. "You uninvited me." "It's complicated," she said. "Ethan's investors are here. You feel out of place." I bit my lip. "I'm your sister." "You'll always be," she said, and her tone turned sharp. "But let's be honest, Lana, you sell houses. This is a different circle. Series B investors, IPO people, you understand." No, I didn't understand. I just felt the air leave my lungs. My chest tightened, but my voice stayed steady. "I had a confirmation email, Sophie." "That was before the final list," she said, impatient now. "Please don't make this about you." The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, surrounded by laughter and champagne. Someone walked past me wearing her bridesmaid color. I recognized the shade from her Instagram post. They brushed my shoulder like I wasn't even there. I looked at my reflection in the mirror wall. Same face, same calm expression, but something inside me cracked. Not broken, released. I took a deep breath and turned toward the exit. The receptionist looked up, worried. "It's fine," I told her. "But could you make sure the bride gets this?" I handed her the envelope. "Of course," she said. "Should I give it now?" "Please," I said with a small smile. "It's important." My heels echoed against the marble floor as I walked away. The city outside was cold and bright. Cars rushed by, music spilling from somewhere down the street. For a moment, I just stood there, watching the lights blur. Then I whispered to myself. She took me off her list, that's fine. But she'll never erase my name again. The night air felt sharp as I stepped onto the street. The sound of laughter from the ballroom followed me like an echo. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just walked. Down the hill, past glowing windows filled with strangers and champagne. The envelope was gone now, resting on the check-in table. It looked ordinary, but it was. Inside, truth was waiting. Quiet, simple, unshakable. I had written her name carefully, every loop deliberate. No glitter, no ribbon, just elegance and finality. I didn't plan revenge that night. I planned peace. 3 blocks away, I found a small Italian restaurant still open. The kind of place that never rushes you, even if you sit alone. I asked for a corner table by the window. The waiter recognized me from before. He smiled kindly, said, "The usual." I nodded, pasta arrabbiata, 1 glass of red wine. He left, and I finally exhaled. My phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times. I flipped it face down. I wasn't ready. Outside, cars hummed over the cobblestone street. Inside, soft jazz played over the low murmur of voices. I sipped my wine, It burned gently. For the first time in months, I felt still. Then the phone began to vibrate again. I turned it over. 47 missed calls. Mom, Sophie, unknown numbers. Something had happened. I didn't need to guess. I knew. I could almost see it, the moment she opened the envelope. Her perfect manicure sliding under the seal. Her bright, curated smile as she pulled out the card. Then the silence that must have followed. The shock, the whispers, the realization. I imagined the room tilting as reality replaced illusion. She had wanted to make me disappear. Instead, she'd exposed herself. I twirled the pasta slowly, watching the steam rise. Every bite tasted like closure. A couple near me clinked glasses. The man said something about destiny. I smiled faintly. Destiny wasn't loud, it was quiet like this. When you stop chasing approval, silence becomes applause. My phone lit up again. A message from my cousin, Claire. She opened it. Everyone's talking. Another one. What did you do, Lana? I didn't answer. The truth didn't need defending. Across town, Sophie's world was cracking in real time. I could picture her standing there, pale, shaking, surrounded by people who suddenly knew who I really was. Not the failure sister, not the outsider, but the woman who'd built an empire in silence. I raised my glass slightly, to no one in particular. To peace, I whispered. Not revenge, not justice, just peace. The waiter came back with the check. Everything all right? He asked. Perfect, I said. And for the first time in years, it truly was. It happened faster than anyone expected. Sophie's grand entrance was supposed to be flawless. The orchestra played, the champagne sparkled, cameras flashed. Then she saw the envelope sitting neatly on the reception table. My handwriting, recognizable, precise, and impossible to ignore. She smirked, probably thinking it was a small apology gift. Maybe a check, maybe something sentimental from her lesser sister. She opened it right there, in front of 50 guests. Ethan leaned over, laughing, making a joke about my budget gifts. But when she pulled out the card, the laughter died. It wasn't cash, it wasn't a note. It was my business card, clean and black, embossed in white letters. Lana Moore, Executive Vice President, Silverstone Real Estate Group. The air around her changed instantly. Someone nearby leaned in to look. A man in a gray suit frowned, whispering to another guest. You know her? He asked quietly. Sophie's sister, Ethan said, confused. Why? The man blinked. She manages our West Coast portfolio. A pause rippled through the crowd, like thunder waiting to break. Another investor checked his phone, scrolling fast. Someone gasped softly. She's in Forbes, they murmured. The whispers spread faster than the music could cover. Photos, headlines, leadership pages. My face glowing on every screen in the room. Sophie's hand shook. Her smile froze midair. Ethan tried to recover, but his eyes told the truth, panic. The golden perfection of the evening started to crack. Guests began to exchange glances. The power dynamic shifted in a single breath. Those who once praised Sophie now studied her like a riddle. If her sister was that powerful, why was she hidden? What else was she hiding? The investors, the ones she'd tried so hard to impress, stepped aside. They whispered, calculating new equations in silence. The bride was no longer the star. The woman she erased had become the headline. Someone lifted the card again, reading my title aloud. Executive Vice President, they said slowly. Each word heavier than the last. Sophie's mother tried to laugh it off, but it didn't land. Ethan poured himself another drink. Sophie stood still, her face drained of color. She had built her life on appearance, on control, on perfect optics. Now, one card had undone it all. The orchestra kept playing, but no one listened anymore. The room had turned into a mirror, and she didn't like her reflection. Across the city, I was finishing my dinner, unaware of the chaos. But I didn't need to see it to know how it felt. I'd spent years in rooms like that, rooms that made me invisible. Now, she was the one fading into silence. And somewhere deep inside, a part of me finally exhaled. Not in victory, but in freedom. Because the truth, once revealed, doesn't need to shout. It simply stands there, undeniable, until the lies collapse around it. 6 months before the wedding, everything was different. I was standing barefoot in an empty penthouse overlooking the bay. Marble floors, glass walls, the kind of view people fight for. It was the same place Sophie once called her future home. She dragged me there 2 years ago, camera in hand, full of dreams. "This will be ours one day," she said, twirling under the skylight. But she never bought it. She never followed through. She waited for her husband's IPO to make it happen. I didn't wait. I made an offer in cash, closed in 30 days, no contingencies. The property was mine before she even realized it was for sale. That deal changed everything. It caught the attention of Silverstone's leadership team. They'd been watching me quietly, tracking every project I managed. When they offered me the executive position, I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not even Sophie. Silence had always been my safest armor. But when she uninvited me from the wedding, something shifted. The penthouse key sat on my desk, heavy with new meaning. It wasn't just real estate anymore. It was a symbol. I could have kept it, moved in, or sold it for profit. Instead, I decided to give it away. Not out of anger, out of purpose. I reached out to a nonprofit that helps women rebuild their lives. When I told the director I wanted to donate the property, she stared. "You mean lease it?" she asked carefully. "No," I said. "Own it, all of it, no conditions." She blinked. "You're giving away a $3 million home." "I'm giving others what I never had," I replied. "A place they belong." Her eyes filled with tears. Mine didn't. I'd already cried my share in silence. Within weeks, the paperwork was done. The title transferred. The legal team finalized the donation. I received a thank you letter, calling it the largest single gift in their history. I framed it quietly and placed it in my office. The same day, I wrote Sophie an email. Subject: "Your wedding gift found a better home." Attached were the scanned documents, the deed transfer, the photos. No message, no explanation, just truth. When the confirmation came through, I felt something close to peace. Not victory, not revenge. Just release, the kind that comes when you stop seeking permission to exist. The penthouse would house 12 women at a time. 12 chances for a new beginning. 12 reminders that loss can become legacy. I didn't tell anyone else. Let Sophie discover it the way she discovered everything, through whispers. Because sometimes the most elegant revenge is quiet generosity. The kind that leaves no ruins, only redemption. And as I watched the sun set over the city that night, I knew I had finally reclaimed the one thing she could never steal. My power to choose grace over bitterness, and truth over validation. The fallout came faster than I imagined. 3 days after the wedding, the perfect image began to crumble. Investors who once toasted Sophie and Ethan stopped returning calls. 2 major backers pulled out of Ethan's series Be Round. No explanations, no press releases, just silence and distance. Word spread quietly through the business circles. The CEO's wife made a strategic blunder, someone whispered. Translation: they lost confidence. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about perception. Sophie had built her life on it, and now it was slipping away. At home, my family tried to contain the damage. Dad called first. That alone was unusual. "We're having a family meeting," he said. "Everyone's coming." I told him no. He paused like he hadn't heard that word from me before. "Your sister is in pieces," he said. "She should be," I replied calmly. "Actions have consequences." They met without me that night. My cousin Claire called later with the details. It started civil, then unraveled fast. Aunt Grace asked the question no one wanted to voice. You uninvited your own sister. Why? Sophie stammered. It was complicated, I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to, Uncle Paul cut in. You deleted her name. Sophie tried to explain about investors, image, status. But the words rang hollow. She manages those investors' portfolios, Claire said. The room went silent. Even Mom couldn't find a defense. She finally muttered, Lana should have told us about her job. Claire snapped, you never listened, why would she? It broke then, the illusion of their perfect family hierarchy. By the end of the night, Sophie was crying. Ethan sat stone-faced, and Mom clutched tissues like a lifeline. Something died that evening, not love image. The version of reality they'd curated for years. Meanwhile, I was across town in a glass office, reviewing a new acquisition proposal with Tyler, my colleague. He slid a coffee toward me. You okay with all this noise? He asked. I shrugged. I didn't start it. He smiled faintly. You just handed her the truth. The industry noticed, quietly, respectfully. I received 3 new client referrals that week. One email read, if you can handle family that gracefully, you can handle my portfolio. Then came the call from Forbes Women, a feature about leadership in real estate. My name, my story, my results without the family drama. When the article came out, Mom sent me the clipping. A sticky note attached. So proud of you, always knew you, shine. I laughed when I read it. Not out of spite, but recognition. People rewrite history when it's convenient. But I didn't need their approval anymore. For the first time, their version of me no longer mattered. The silence that followed wasn't lonely. It was freedom, the kind that comes when the world finally stops mistaking your quiet for weakness. A year passed quietly, like a page turning itself. The noise faded, the whispers died, the world moved on. But I hadn't gone back to who I was before. Every morning, I walked into my corner office on the 46th floor. My name was on the glass door now. Lana Moore, Executive Vice President. Sometimes, I'd trace the letters with my fingers, just to remind myself that they were real. Outside my window, the city pulsed with light and ambition. The same city that once made me feel invisible now carried my name. That morning, Maria from the Women's Foundation visited. She brought cookies, homemade by one of the residents. Her smile was warm, the kind that softens even hard edges. We sold the penthouse last week, she said. The market bounced, 3.2 million. I nodded. Good, I said. That money will last you years. She smiled wider. 7 to be exact. 7 years of housing, counseling, and new beginnings. How many women have lived there so far? I asked. 43, she said. Some with children, some just out of shelters. All of them rebuilding. She handed me a small framed note. Written in looping, handwriting on plain paper. This was the first time I ever slept somewhere I felt safe. Thank you for seeing me before I saw myself. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. My chest tightened, not with pain but with something lighter. Maybe pride, maybe healing. After she left, I stood by the window again. The sun was setting over the bay, soft and gold. A text buzzed on my phone. Tyler. Dinner tonight, same place, no spreadsheets allowed. I smiled. He'd been steady through it all, calm where others judged. Some people arrive when the noise ends. Those are the ones you keep. Later that evening, as the city lights flickered on, I thought about Sophie's letter from last week. Handwritten, shaky cursive. No excuses this time. It's been a year since I made the worst mistake of my life, she wrote. I don't expect forgiveness. I just understand now. Success isn't image or approval. It's who you are when no one claps. You didn't just win, Lana. You became someone worth celebrating. I just didn't see it, and now I've lost you. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in a drawer. Not to forget it, but to close the chapter. Some bridges aren't burned. They're dismantled piece by piece. You stop crossing them long before they fall. I looked out at the skyline again. Somewhere below, laughter floated from rooftop bars. I wasn't part of that world anymore, and I didn't need to be. They once took my seat at their table. So I built my own. And from here, with the city spread beneath me, the view was everything they promised success would feel like. But finally, it belonged to me. The city glowed beneath the evening sky. Lights shimmered across the bay like scattered stars. I stood by the window, coffee in hand, silence wrapping around me. This was peace, the kind I used to think only existed for others. I thought about the girl I once was, waiting for an invitation, waiting for someone to see her worth. She doesn't wait anymore. She builds, she leads, she chooses herself every time. Sophie's laughter used to echo in my head like a reminder of failure. Now, it's just a sound from another life. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. I simply understand her. We both chased validation in different directions. Only one of us learned where it truly lives. The fog rolled in, soft and golden, wrapping the skyline in light. I smiled, not because I won, but because I grew. They took my name off a list once, but I wrote it back, bigger, brighter, untouchable. The world outside kept moving, fast and loud. But I stood still for a moment, whispering to myself. I found my place, I made my table, and the view is mine.